time. On this video we're going to have a go at making an so easy cosmetics bag. So as far as I'm aware, you can still get the pattern from them, it is free, and I've made loads of these and it's very easy for a beginner, or if you're not a beginner and you want something for your workmates or anything like that, or your aunties or cousins. This is very easy to put together and it's really quick and simple. We are going to use up our scraps again. We are trying to use scraps without buying fabric. So I've got these together and I went through enough and tried to get all the greens and the aquas together, and the contrast of the darker one is the brown, but that's batik and it's got aqua in it. This is the only pattern you require, and you cut it on the fold. So that's, once you download it, that's it, that's all you get. And you want 2 outer, which we're making our own fabric, 2 lining and 2 of interfacing. I haven't actually got any medium interfacing, so I'm going to use the fleece iron-on interfacing, so that's there. This is all the lining I've got that's in my stash. You could use cotton, because obviously all you do is throw it straight into the washing machine, and you can wash it all, so you can use any fabric on the inside for your lining. I just happen to I've got this washable, wipeable, so obviously the inside can be wiped if it's cosmetics and you spilt something in, then that comes in handy. And and what we're going to sew our scrap onto is, I've got an old sheet, so I've just and it's the old sheets is what I use if I'm doing quote as you go blocks. Then I use an old sheet as a template. So I've done the sew. This is a size I'm going to make both sides. Obviously there's 2 sides to it. You need 2 outer fabric, and then all you do is line up. And I'm going to try and do the same both sides if possible. So that's it. That's all it is. It's just this cosmetic bag. And using scrap fabric, and that's just the one pattern. So let's see how we go. So when you've got this far of choosing all your fabric and your backing fabric to put your stripes on, then what you do is you put right size together, and that's what I did with the first one. And then you continue to put right size together, 1/4 inch seam all the way across, and then pin it on if you wish, or just hold it there. You could also iron each one as you go along, that's your choice, or you can just finger press the seams down, it's up to you. You don't have to put them on in a straight line. You can put them skew if to give the fabric a bit more interest. You can pre-cut your fabric so that it's already fatter at one end and thinner at the other, or you can just hold it that way. No need to go backwards and forwards, because we're not going to want all this, because we've got a pattern to put on the middle. And basically that's all you do is and you can either choose to have both sides exactly the same, so you'll need 2 of everything, or you can do it completely scrappy, both sides. But then just turn your fabric over, finger press it, but do it with your nail, it's easier. So it lays flat. And then get your next piece and then put them again right size together, and then you can pin if you require. As you can see on this next one, on this one, I'm laying the fabric on top the opposite direction. Let's just get my needle over, so it's a bit, I'm using too much fabric. So, and I'm going from wider at the top and slimmer at the bottom, and I haven't pinned this time, making sure it's flat. finger press that one over, or iron, it's entirely up to you. And that way then, as you can see, that fabric is slightly different top to bottom as well. Just gives the fabric a bit more interest. Once you've completed your strip of fabric, then press it so it's completely flat. Make sure this is the lining fabric, and because obviously unless I fold this in half I won't know if I've got enough by using the pattern, but obviously I've already cut the lining fabric out, and I know by that I'm going to have enough. Line it up on the fabric where you want it to be, and then you know that's where you've got to cut your pattern out of. So I'm quite happy make sure you've got enough at the ends. Where you want to line it up to. I think I want both ends in of a touch of this fabric and a touch of the light one as well. You could also have it that way or that way, it's entirely up to you. This is your fabric, you cut however you wish it to be. So that's where I want my fabric. So obviously then what you have to do is fold it in half. You put this on the fold like this, you know you're going to catch that and the other one underneath as well. Pin. So pin it all the way around. You can either use scissors or use a rotary cutter. I've got the flat pins. And then cut it out, and that's your pattern. You do exactly the same with the other one. So once I've cut out the pattern, that's exactly what I've got, the same as for the lining fabric that way. And then obviously this is what we've cut off at the ends. Don't throw them away. If you make crumb quilts, they're ideal to keep for more. So we've got more things in our stash, in our scrap bag. And you have to do that again to make the other side. So then when you've got all your bits together, you will have exactly what you've got said on the pattern. 2 of outer fabric, 2 of lining, and 2 of interfacing. Now I've got no actual interfacing, I've only got the really stiff stuff, and so I'm using iron-on fleece. So that's 2 of outer, 2 lining, and 2, and that's my interfacing. So when you're ready to put your interfacing, this particular fleece interfacing iron-on says 10 seconds dry. It doesn't say anything about steam, so I assume it's dry. And toe it up to a cotton setting. And then you can also add both. You can add a thicker wadding or a fleece and interfacing if you want it stiffer to stand up on its own. That's entirely up to you. So just keep your eye on it for a few seconds, 10 to 15 seconds. If it's not sticking, leave it on longer. No need to press. If you've got your iron on the right heat, which is a cotton setting, it should automatically stick down. So once you've got all your bits ready, you need a zip. Now you do only need a 9-inch zip, but I wanted to get rid of it again. I don't know when I'm ever going to be using that colour. It's bright lime green, and I thought, well, if I'm using greens, it'll actually go all right with that. So even though it's longer, that doesn't matter. So you've got a zip, and you've got the way it whatever you call this, on the left hand side. You've got the fabric piece and you've got a lining piece. So you need that facing up, right side up. You need your zip. It actually is better, if you think about it, if you have got one longer, because that can stay that way, out the way, and it's not going to get in anybody's way. You don't have to undo it or anything. It's entirely up to you how you do this. So fabric up, zipper down with the pull on the left hand side, and your piece of lining, that's my right side, put your right side facing. So make sure that you've got this level and then clip together all the way across. And did you know there's a right way and wrong way for these? The flat bit at the bottom is the bit that goes underneath. I didn't find that out until a few weeks back. So, and then obviously then it'll all lie flat on your table. So then clip it all the way up in, it's entirely up to you, and this is where you'll need your zipper foot. So once you have all your 3 pieces of fabric together in the right order and you've got your zipper footer on, then just go down the side of your zipper. Now if you like your colour of your zip and your pattern of your zip, then you can show more zip. If not, run it as close as you can. I'm going to try and show a bit more zipper. So that means I'm going to be running my fabric on the middle. Go back and forward to secure the end of your zip. On this one you haven't got to worry about your zipper because we've got one that's longer, so it's running off the end. Make sure as you go along all your 3 fabrics are together. When you stop with your needle down, it makes it easier. The lining fabric I'm using is wipeable, it's washable. Wherever measurement you use to put this side in, you must remember and use exactly the same so it looks coordinated. Again, when you get to the end, reinforce it. So when you open up, you should have your zipper sandwiched between your lining and your inner fabric and your outer fabric. There you go, sandwiched. So on this next bit, there's your fabric that you've already done and you've turned. That's what you did to get it on. Hang on a minute, this is the way you end up. Right, that's how you sewn it on. Right, that's how it was. Oh, that's it. So what you do then is turn it the other way. And I know some people who are not beginners will probably already know this fact, but this is for beginners. And so turn it round the other way so it ends up on the other side. So basically then with your sandwich. Then you've got your other piece of fabric there, and you're going to turn right side fabric to right side fabric, and your zip is going to go that way, lining up your pieces of fabric on the sides. Don't worry about where your zip is, ours is longer, but you need to make sure your zip needs to be at the top and your sides need to line up. Right, so being there's going to be more than one material on this bit when we've finished and you've got all this to contend with, we'll put these together with clips first. Like so. Pull your lining out of the way. You can actually pin that at the bottom. Keep all your fabric together out the way at the bottom, just pin it all together, and that steadies that up. and then you get your right sides have got to be right sized together. That's out, yeah, with your right side of your lining, and that has to go, and you're making another sandwich. This time your zips, you make sure it's straight down there and it's straight across the top. This time just move your clips over to catch your lining. You know it's all straight. There you go, and that's easy. And then again you sew exactly the same place as you did before, so you've got the same distance from either side all the way down, and enclose that zip. Right, this is the point where we need to do some top stitching, and that's to keep all the layers of fabric together down that way. So it's okay to iron that side because this is cotton on a hot iron. Don't stay too long over a nylon zip, but you can iron across it. This side is lining fabric, doesn't like heat, and it probably won't press straight out, but we want to keep, if you look underneath, you've got this here seam. Well, we're going to top stitch that down. So what I'm going to do to get this to lie flat, if you've got 100% cotton as your lining, then you'll probably find you won't need to do anything to flatten out. Just pull it down and flatten it all together to keep that, and then you'll have to do it by feeling it as well as you go along. But obviously with it, if you've got cotton, you'll probably be able to press that down flat. If you're putting pins in, make sure that you keep them away from your zipper foot when you do that. Bit of top stitching, don't want them to hit that because you're not going to be able to see them. So I've held that down as much as I can. We are now going to sew, and you'll be able to feel as you go along which way that seam is lying to make sure that it's that way, and then pull your fabric apart. 1/8 of an inch from your zip either side. Because you're not using a seam guide now, so where you put the needle is entirely up to you, but make sure that you try and keep it as straight as possible all the way across. I don't think my machine likes this lining fabric, but I'm feeling with this finger as I go, I know that that seam is lying flat down that way, and I know my lining fabric is because I can feel that as well. Don't worry about reinforcing at the front, at the start and the finish, because you're going to everything's all this end and that end will go into a seam allowance. Right, as you can see, problem is rectified, and I changed the colour of my cotton from white to a yellow, so it's sort of like a yellowy green to match the greens on the zip, and I left the one on the underside black, so that's a bit straighter than where it was before. I don't think you'll have a problem if I had to change my machine as well, because I had bobbin problems with my other machine, so I got my Singer out. So let's go to the next stage. So we've only got one more step to go and we are finished. So give yourself a little bit of room, get some pins or some clips together. You put your 2 fabric pieces. First thing you do is make sure that you open that zip. That's very, very, very important. Regardless of size, make sure it's opened, but not in the way. Make sure it's in the middle and not at the ends. Make sure this is in the middle. So you put your fabric pieces together and you put your lining pieces together, clip and pin them together. So clip or pin, it's entirely up to you, making sure, don't matter what your fleece is doing, make sure your fabric pieces are together, because that's the shape of your bag. There you go. So make sure your fabric pieces are, there you go, together there. So making sure again at the side your fabrics together. And do the same on your lining side, making sure that the corners you cut, don't forget you cut it all out exactly the same, so it's important that these all go. You know, when you can't see black, it's very difficult. Now what you will be doing is leaving a gap in your lining to pull it all out. So do your for a beginner, do your pins the different ways so you know where to start and stop. So you leave a gap, but never leave a gap that's too close to your corner. Always make sure you come an inch or two past there. Okay, and you've got a good 4 inches. When you get to your zip, make sure that your seams are together. I'm not quite sure actually whether you go down with your zip, up with your zip. So put this, your spare zip into your lining and push it, and put all your fabric together and pin that. So let me just double check I've done the same, because obviously it's going to lie that way, and I have made that lie the same. So make sure your zip's doing the same both sides. So your zip needs to, if your zip's going to go this side, because that's the way it's lying, and make sure that zip is going that side, and then make sure then, that's when you know it's all together the right way, and you can put it together that side, put it together, fabric, not your zip, make sure your fabric's together. Your zip should look after itself. And your fabric should lie straight on the edges if you've done it at the edges at the bottom. And if you do the ends, and your corners. And again, you do your pin opposite, you'll know where to start and stop. leaving a good 4 inches to pull through. Right, just do this bit here. It should all, if you've cut everything spot on, it should all just link up. Right, so the idea is now, once you've got, it doesn't matter how many pins, how many clips you use what's comfortable for you. So what you do is you start from your lining area where you're going to start and stop. So that should, so you start here, and obviously you finish there. Start here, go round all the way up. Now my advice is to do 1/2 inch seam allowance and then when you get to here you should be on 1/4 inch. But if you want to do 1/2 inch on here, then you must do 3/4 inch, so it's too big. So obviously 1/2 inch on here, 1/4 inch on your fabric. So when you get from here, start angling it in till you get to 1/4 inch. So start 1/2 inch, then work your way into 1/4 inch, and for that reason, that's so the lining fits more snugly into the fabric. Then 1/4 inch all the way around, and then again when you get to this side, you start coming out. So you've got 1/2 inch, work your way down 1/2 inch all the way down and stop there. Do reinforce start and finish, because then when you turn it over to make it easy if you've reinforced it. I think you can. That wasn't very helpful, was it? If you can watch the rest. So we're doing 1/4 inch on this section, and take it off, and then go back on this corner. You don't want to sew around your corners, because you'll be boxing that. Follow your fabric, not your fleece. Your fabric should be together backwards and forwards. And then by the time you get to here, when you pivot, you start coming out 1/2 inch. So you're still doing 1/4 inch at the moment. Yeah. Watch your zip. And start coming out to 1/2 inch. I am now on 1/2 inch. And then go off this end. Still be doing 1/2 inch on the lining. And then reinforce where you stop. So to recap, where's your start line? This is where I went wrong last time, but I should take that off the video. So that's your start, and then you go off there. Ignore this, I should be taking that little bit out. Up there you still be going 1/2 inch. By the time you get to the zip you should be on the here up 1/4 inch, and then all the way round. Stop there, reintroduce on this side, because these will be going like that, and then obviously then go all the way round, leaving out this section, just going from one to the other, 1/2 inch back on this side, and then because we'll be doing this, oops, can't open it, there you go, and we'll be doing that, which I shall show you next. So we're almost there. If you've got any zip parts, you can actually cut them out now, because you've actually sewn them in, and you know that your zip attachment is in there somewhere. This is where we do the box pleats, the box on the corner boxes, is you open it up and then put the seams together like so. So you flatten this all out so you've got it that shape, like so. So you've got it flattened out, and make sure your seams are on top of each other like so. You could push one seam this way and one seam the other way so it's not too bulky, but they must be on top of each other. The line continues from one side to the other, so you only need to make sure that that stays put, because you got, it's only very small, and then you're going to sew. Now I'd do 1/4 inch, but remember, it doesn't matter what your fleece or your interface is doing, follow your line of your fabric. Again, this cotton is not going to show, and it's for your benefit more than anything else. Let's get in the sewing machine in. So put it underneath your machine. Make sure you are 1/4 inch. You can have a large quarter if it makes your life easier. And this is where you must reinforce your bottoms. Keep your hand on top, making sure when you stop, make sure your needle is down. Keep it together, 1/4 inch. You could go back over them again and reinforce this and reinforce your start, your end. You do exactly the same on the other side, on all your sides. So that's your box now. Take your fabric apart, placing your seams together all the way up and the edges of your fabric together. And you can put one seam that way and one seam this way. Clip to make sure they stay really still while you're going it to your machine. And again, quarter of an inch, following your fabric. Reinforce your start and finish. Keep your finger well down when you take your first one out. Reinforce. Two box corners, and then do your lining.